Resident Evil 5 is a video game with an identity crisis. It was marketed like it was a horror game, but when you've played the final product, it was essentially an action game. Sure, there's horror-themed visuals and there's gore and there's whatnot in the game. The atmosphere doesn't really exist. And by the time you get to the end of the game, you're feeling a little bit empty. You're feeling like, well, that wasn't really a horror game. That's not exactly what I signed up for. Sure, Resident Evil 5 is an incredible action game. It's one of the best out there. Honestly, Resident Evil 5 is a superb video game. But it fails at what it's trying to present. It's trying to be a sequel to Resident Evil 4. A game that started a genre in itself, and that is the action horror genre. Action horror requires such an important balance between the action and the horror to be that kind of genre that not a lot of video games seem to be able to nail. Resident Evil 5, I'm afraid, is not one of those games. It doesn't change the fact that it's really good. It just doesn't present any horror. That's where the DLC comes in. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the DLC is action horror, because it's so far from that. Resident Evil 5's Lost in Nightmares DLC is pretty much survival horror. Now, I'm a little bit of a I know what survival horror is type of person. I don't think every horror game on the planet is survival horror. I think there's very key things you need to do before you become survival horror. And I'm not saying Lost in Nightmares ticks all the boxes, but if I was going to label it, I'm going to label it survival horror over just action horror any day. The game is more focused on its atmosphere, on its exploration, less so the combat. So the game visually is going to have a lot of nostalgic bit where it's going to be like, look at me, I'm Resident Evil 1, you're Chris, there's Jill, we're back at square one. And even the main enemy's going to be Wesker. The mansion layout that you're in, it's very much the Spencer mansion. Obviously not identical, but it's so fucking close to being it, it might as well be it. You're not going to be fighting a ton of enemies. There's only one type of enemy in it. And it's more... I mean, you can unload bullets into it to kill it, but it's more so a puzzle in itself. You want to get behind it. You want to shoot the eyeballs, to drop it to its knees, to do the melee attacks, to do maximum amount of damage quickly. You're not going to really like unload your ammo into it from the front. So it's not so much... I don't know, it's not as fast paced as the main game would be, where it's combat. It's very slow and you've got to have strategy with it. Like I said, the atmosphere is thick. The sound design is really good. There's going to be a lot of noises you're going to hear off in the distance. You're not going to be sure if it's going to spawn in an enemy, because there seems to be some randomization with this DLC. Like, there's certain parts you'll play through it and you'll be like, well, I swear there was an enemy here before. Next time you come through, there will be an enemy here and there. It's very random in that, and it keeps the, I don't know, keeps the tension high. It does. By the time you get through it all, you are going to be wanting more. There's two complaints I have with Lost in Nightmares, and that is it's too short. It feels like a level. I want to say it's like a chapter in the main game. That's the length you're getting here. Sure, with the different difficulties, like professional difficulty compared to easy. The last section where you've got to get like the stone tablets to open the gate. I think on easy you only have to get one, and then on professional you have to get all four. So it's like, depending on which difficulty you're on, you're going to have to get that number of stone tablets. So it's like normal at 2, veteran 3, until professional's like the main one. And the other complaint I have with it is the fact that there is only one enemy type. While I'm playing it, I kind of want to shoot a zombie here and there. I just feel like when you're going in these rooms, although I really appreciate the focus on exploration and storytelling, I just want to shoot a zombie now and again, you know, like let's really throw it back. But yeah, there's a lot of nostalgia bait with this one. It's very much like, look at me, I'm Resident Evil 1, and I wasn't complaining at the time, definitely not at the time. I wanted this kind of thing from Resident Evil. I wanted less action, more survival horror. Definitely not like that anymore, but I still appreciate what this DLC is. So yeah, it's great from start to finish. It's a little bit too short. It is. But all the horror that the main game was missing is all buried here. It's all in this DLC, and it's a bit of a shame that you had to buy it back in the day to get access to it. Obviously, that's not the case now. I feel like you buy Resident Evil 5, it doesn't matter where you buy it, right? It's part of the package now. Resident Evil 5 itself is such an incredible package. You've got the main game, your 2 DLC expansions, and you've got the mercenaries. Like, what more do you need in a Resident Evil game? That is full to the brim with content. That's a hell of a good time. Now, when I did play through it, I gotta admit, although I was thinking, what's the remake gonna do with this? Could we start here in the remake? Wouldn't that be kind of cool if the remake comes along and it's like you do Lost in Nightmares first and then it leads in Africa? Now, I'm not delusional. I know that's not going to happen for 2 reasons. One, people have a very solid idea of what Resident Evil 5 is. So Capcom knows they need to start in Africa and do it exactly like the main campaign is. Because most people, unless you're a super fan, didn't even touch the DLC. It's only us hardcore that have touched the DLC, so a lot of people don't give a shit about this part of the campaign anyway. They only want Resident Evil 5 the way it was. And obviously the main one why we're not going to get that in the remake is because, of course, Capcom will sell it to us later on down the road. Why would they give it to us in the game day one when they can pull it, create it later, and charge us later? And we'll all complain, like we do, and we'll all buy it, like we do. But not only did it, like, make me think of the Resident Evil 5 remake while I'm playing it, like I mentioned, because of such nostalgic visuals of this game, I want Resident Evil 1. I need Resident Evil 1 remade like this. I know times have changed, the gameplay is a lot different now, but you know what I mean. The over-the-shoulder in the new engine, I need that experience for Resident Evil 1. And I know a lot of people are going to be like going, no, Resident Evil 1 was already remade, fixed camera angle supremacy, I don't want it done again. Listen, I get that it was already remade, but if you want to play fixed camera angle Resident Evil 1, you already have 2 Resident Evil 1s to play, plus all the random ports with all the added features. There is no over-the-shoulder Resident Evil 1. Let me have what I want. I'd even take first person, to be honest. Just give me a different perspective to Resident Evil 1. So not only does Lost in Nightmares deliver on the front of giving us more horror to Resident Evil 5, it also delivered on nostalgia, and it kind of made me want Resident Evil 1 remade, funnily enough. So yeah, Lost in Nightmares is such a good DLC. If you haven't played it, I really recommend it to you, especially if you like survival horror. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Resident Evil 5's Lost in Nightmares DLC. If you like content like this, don't forget to subscribe. But yeah, let me know down below how the DLC was for you. That's all I got. I'll catch you later.